We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello again, I'm John Gidley, and welcome to another trip into the football attic. Today we're going to be talking about the 1999 Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that won every one of their regular and postseason games, except the 3 they played against the Tennessee Titans. First, a little backstory. The Jacksonville Jaguars were one of 2 expansion teams that came into the NFL in 1995, along with the Carolina Panthers. Like most expansion teams, the Jags experienced some growing pains in their first season, going only 4-12. In 1996, they started 4-7, and it looked like things would go about the same as they did in 95. To the surprise of the NFL, however, Jacksonville won each of their final 5 games to sneak into the AFC playoffs in only their second season in the league. Not only that, in the wildcard round, they went into Buffalo and beat the Bills 30-27. Not only that, in the divisional round, they went into Denver to face a Broncos team that most people thought were a shoo-in for the Super Bowl. Instead, the Jaguars shocked the world and came out with another 30-27 victory. Their Cinderella season ended the next week, however, with a 20-6 loss to the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Now, it's certainly surprising to see one team make it all the way to a conference championship game in just their second season of play, but would you believe the Jaguars weren't the only team to accomplish this in 1996? Their expansion counterparts of the NFC, the Carolina Panthers, went 12-4, earned a first-round bye, and even beat the defending champion Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round, before coming up short to the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. To think we almost had a Super Bowl between 2 teams that had only started their franchises the year before. Over the next 3 seasons, the Jaguars proved that 1996 was no fluke. They went 11-5 in both 1997 and 98, making the playoffs both times but never going past the divisional round. In 1999, they blew through the AFC by going 14-2 and embarrassing a legendary quarterback and coach in the divisional round. They lost the AFC Championship game, however, to the exact same team they had lost both of their regular season games against, the Tennessee Titans. If you were with me last week when we talked about the Houston Oilers of 1972 and 73, you'll remember how they became the Tennessee Titans. 1999 was the franchise's 3rd season in Tennessee, and the first in which they used the Titans nickname and uniforms after changing from Oilers. After 2 mediocre seasons in 1997 and 98, everything clicked for the Titans in 99 as they finished the regular season with a franchise record 13 wins, something that no Houston Oilers team ever accomplished. The first time the Titans and Jaguars met in 1999 was in a Week 3 matchup in rainy Jacksonville. Both teams came in at 2-0. In a defensive struggle, Jags quarterback Mark Brunell threw 3 interceptions, and a late touchdown pass from Tennessee backup quarterback Neil O'Donnell to Michael Roan gave the Titans a 20-19 victory. Following this defeat, the Jaguars went on a tear, winning 11 consecutive games. They boasted the best defense in the NFL, allowing a league-low 13 points per game and leading the AFC with 57 sacks. Over a dominant 6-week span, the defense allowed a combined 36 points in 6 games. The offense was solid as well, with running backs James Stewart and Fred Taylor combining for over 1,600 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns, and receivers Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell collectively totaling over 2,500 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. In the meantime, the Titans occasionally stumbled, losing 2 games they should have won against San Francisco and Baltimore, and getting shut out in Miami. Aside from these 3 losses, Tennessee had a great team of their own. They were led at quarterback by the late Steve McNair, known more at this point for his running ability than his passing. McNair and running back Eddie George combined for 2,000 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns this season, while being protected by a dominant offensive line led by Hall of Famer Bruce Matthews. The next time the Jaguars and Titans met, it was Week 16 in Nashville, the day after Christmas. Jacksonville came in at 13-1 on an aforementioned 11-game winning streak, and Tennessee entered at 11-3. The Jaguars weren't only defeated on this day, they were embarrassed in a way they hadn't been all season. The Titans' offense exploded for 41 points, by far the most that Jacksonville had allowed all year. Eddie George ran for 102 yards, and Steve McNair threw 5 touchdown passes in an easy 41-14 victory. Aside from a long pass from Mark Brunell to Jimmy Smith, the Jags did nothing on offense. James Stewart didn't play due to an injury, Fred Taylor only got 44 rushing yards, and Brunell went only 4 for 11 passing with 95 yards, 62 of which came on that pass to Smith. Brunell was benched for Jay Fiedler, who didn't fare much better, going 8 of 22 with 2 interceptions. The Jaguars were now 13-2, still leading the AFC Central Division, while the Titans were 12-3. Entering Week 17, Tennessee had an outside chance of winning the division, but they would need to count on the lowly Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville. As you might expect, this didn't happen. The Jags beat the Bengals 24-7 to finish 14-2, clinching both the AFC Central Division and home field advantage in the AFC playoffs. Tennessee won at Pittsburgh 47-36, finishing 13-3 and securing the top wildcard spot in the AFC. If you've seen any compilation video of the greatest plays in NFL history, you probably know what happened the next week. The Titans beat the Buffalo Bills on the Music City Miracle play in the wildcard round. They then went into Indianapolis and upset the Colts in the divisional round 19-16 in Peyton Manning's first ever playoff game. The day before, the Jaguars turned in one of the most dominant performances in playoff history, beating the Miami Dolphins 62-7 in Miami quarterback Dan Marino's final NFL game, also being led by head coach Jimmy Johnson. The Jags had a 41-0 lead in the first half. With an outcome like that, you may have been led to believe that Jacksonville was destined for the Super Bowl. Tennessee, the only team that had beaten them all season, had other ideas. The next week, the Titans and Jaguars met for the third time in the 1999 season, this time for the AFC Championship. Despite Tennessee winning both of their regular season meetings, the oddsmakers had Jacksonville as 7-point favorites. With the score tied at 7 late in the first quarter, James Stewart broke off on a 33-yard touchdown run to give the Jags the lead. Tennessee's Al Del Greco made a 34-yard field goal just before halftime to make the intermission score 14-10 in favor of Jacksonville. Stewart's run would be the last time the Jaguars scored all day. In the third quarter, the Titans ambushed the Jags by scoring on all 3 units. Steve McNair scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. The defense earned a safety when Josh Evans sacked Mark Brunell in the end zone, and Derek Mason scored by taking the subsequent kickoff 80 yards to the house. McNair tacked on another 1-yard touchdown run late in the fourth quarter, and that was it. Tennessee scored 16 unanswered second-half points to complete their personal hat trick, beating Jacksonville for the third time that season, 33-14, and advancing to the Super Bowl against the St. Louis Rams and the greatest show on turf. In that previously mentioned video of greatest plays in NFL history, the finish to that game would have been included as well. On the final play with the Titans down by 7, Steve McNair completed the pass to Kevin Dyson, who was tackled by Mike Jones 1 yard short of the goal line, preserving a Super Bowl victory for St. Louis, while Jacksonville watched at home. In the 20 years since then, neither the Titans nor the Jaguars have equaled their 1999 performances. Tennessee went 13-3 again in 2000, but were upset at home by the eventual Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round. They've reached the AFC Championship game twice since then, but lost both times. Jacksonville went 7-9 in 2000, their first of 4 consecutive losing seasons, and have only made the playoffs 3 times since then. For younger NFL fans who are accustomed to seeing these two teams play a meaningless Thursday night football game each year, they'd be surprised to learn that the Titans and Jaguars were once the 2 best teams in the AFC. That'll do it for this trip into the football attic. Thanks as always for joining me, and I hope to see you again next week. In the meantime, check out all the other great podcasts here on the Sports History Network, and follow me on Twitter at JFG Sports. Until next time, this is John Gidley.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We at the Sports History Network are thrilled to work with our sponsors and partners. With their support, we are able to produce great content for you. The other cool thing is most of our sponsors and partners offer discounts to pass along to our fans. So if you go to the sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors page, you'll find Row 1, Royal Retros, Play Classic, Thrive Fantasy, and Mega Seats. All of these offer great discounts. Specifically at Row 1, you can save 15% at the Row 1 Gallery with the code SHN. The Row 1 Gallery includes over 5,200 reproduced sports history prints on a variety of sizes of wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. The Row 1 shop also has thousands of more unique items with retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts and long-sleeve shirts, phone cases and mugs, blankets and pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. With Royal Retros, they're the king of throwbacks. They've got jerseys, shirts, hats, collectibles, and more from defunct leagues and other teams in those leagues. From Play Classic Games, it's sports simulation board games. Just use the code SHN for 10% off your first order. From Thrive Fantasy, it's a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. Use the promo code SHN for instant 100% match up to $100. And with Mega Seats, they're tickets with no fees. You can save up to 10% with the code SHN. So check them out on the sportshistorynetwork.com sponsors page. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/sponsors. The soundtrack is provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.